Okay, great to see these opening speeches, some engagement, commitment on a high level, politically and industrial-wise. Now we can start our first plenary of the conference, called Public Policies, moderated by Giles Dickson, CEO of Wind Europe. So Giles, I invite you to the stage and hand over all the floor to you. Thank you.
Je vais m'installer ici dans le premier siège et toi près de moi. Ça va? Oui, excellent, excellent. Très bien, très bien. Ouais. Monsieur le Président, honourable dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Public policies. What are governments doing to support floating offshore wind? We're going to hear from 5 different governments, and we start with the host country, France. Please welcome the Deputy Director for Electrical Systems and Renewable Energy in the General Directorate for Energy and Climate of the French government, Hermine Durand. Hermine, the floor is yours. You can speak over there? Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Bretagne region, the Pôle Mer Méditerranée, and France Renewable for organizing this event here in Brest. So I work for the French government in the Ministry for Energy and Industry. You just saw my minister giving a speech. And I'm very pleased to be here today to share with you our ambitious goals for offshore wind energy in France, and especially to point out that floating wind will represent a significant portion of France's 45 gigawatt goal by 2050. As it was previously mentioned by President Chené Girard, we absolutely need to stop using fossil fuels and reach carbon neutrality by 2050. Offshore wind in France should represent, by 2050, 20% of our electricity consumption. For us, in the French government, we think that offshore wind means renewable electricity, jobs, and also the industry. That is why we started a maritime spatial planning, and we had a huge public debate in 2024. During 1 year, we looked for the best zones in France on all sea basins, and thanks to our partners and our TSO, RTE, and also all the French representatives in the regions, now we have a plan. We asked the public and the stakeholders, where should we build our next wind farms in the next 10 years and by 2050? And now we do have 2 mappings for each sea basin, one for the next 10 years and one for 2050. And our target is indeed to launch a new tender, FOWT2025, for 8 to 10 gigawatts in 2025. This is the map we published last October, and you can see that now we know where we will develop offshore wind, bottom-fixed offshore wind, and floating offshore wind. It will concern all sea basins, so the Atlantic Ocean, the Channel, and the Mediterranean. France has ambitious targets for floating offshore wind to achieve carbon neutrality. It was previously mentioned that we need a multi-annual energy plan, and my minister said that it will be adopted in the coming weeks. And indeed, as it was mentioned by Anne-Catherine de Tourtier, it is absolutely important that we put all our offshore targets in this multi-annual energy plan for 2035, 18 gigawatts, for 2040, 26 gigawatts, and for 2050, 45 gigawatts. Within these ambitious offshore targets, we will have ambitious floating targets by 2040. Thanks to the maritime spatial planning that we did in 2024, we now have new objectives for upcoming tenders for floating offshore wind. So in the Atlantic, we added a new target of 3.6 to 4.4 gigawatts of floating offshore wind, and in the Mediterranean, we added a new target of 3.1 gigawatt. When I say that we want to lead the floating offshore wind sector, it is actually already a reality. It was already mentioned, but I would like to come back to the award of the AO5 and AO6 tenders last year. 3 projects of 250 megawatts each that were awarded to energy developers. So for AO5, we awarded the Bretagne Sud project with a very good strike price, 86 euros per megawatt hour to Penavel. For AO6, we awarded the project in the Occitanie region to Ocean Winds with 92 euros per megawatt hour. And for the PACA region, La Région Sud, the project was awarded to EDF with a strike price of 85 euros per megawatt hour. So now we are committed to make these projects a reality. So the French government will, of course, continue to support these projects. And last night, the maritime prefect said that we will have to deliver all the permits for these projects, and so they can actually be constructed and commissioned in the timelines that were specified in the tenders. We also need to continue to develop offshore wind, and the next step for these tenders, AO5 and AO6, is also to have new projects built in extension of these first floating projects. So we launched AO9 for different projects of 500 megawatts for Bretagne Sud 2, 500 megawatts for Golfe de Fos 2, and also for Narbonnaise 2. So these are the 3 projects in extensions of the projects I was previously mentioning. And AO9 also include a 1.2 gigawatt project in Oléron in Nouvelle-Aquitaine, which might be floating or bottom fixed due to the site conditions. You are all wanting to know which the timetable will be for these tenders. So we are at the moment finalizing our discussions with the European Commission. We talked about NZIA. Indeed, it's a huge change in the way we are designing our tenders. So we want to take full advantage of these new rules that are now in the European law. So we are still working on this new non-price criteria, including diversification of supply, resilience, but also carbon footprint, and we need to increase the tender robustness as well in a very competitive environment. So this is for AO9, and for AO10, we are already preparing the tender specifications. Of course, we don't have the multi-annual energy plan, but we are already working on the tender conditions. We launched first public consultation in the last month, and we're currently working on the results so that we could publish the final version of AO10 specifications by the end of the year, and also aim at awarding AO10 projects by the end of 2026. Last but not least, we are here in Brest, and I could not talk about port infrastructures. We need to develop our port infrastructures and adapt them so they can welcome offshore wind energy, and especially floating offshore wind energy. So we launched this call for projects for the development of port infrastructure, and we are aiming at taking an investment decision by this summer 2025. That's all for me. And thank you very much for your commitment to offshore wind in the world and in France, and we aim at delivering all these tenders on time in the next month and years. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Hermine. From France, we go to Scotland. Please now welcome the Deputy Director for Offshore Wind in the Scottish Government, Raggy Lowe. Raggy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's fantastic to see so many people in the room in this 12th conference, focused specifically on floating offshore wind, which is a subject very dear to my heart and to that of the Scottish Government and our ministers. It'll be great to take part in the discussions, and I'm really looking forward to meeting as many of you as possible over the course of the day today. So I'm here to give you a bit of a flavour of the approach that we're taking in Scotland and how we are positioning offshore wind at the heart both of our energy policy and our economic policy, as set out in our Green Industrial Strategy. So thanks to our abundant natural resources, which include strong winds and extensive deep water coastline, and also to our world-class workforce, our oil and gas legacy, and our extensive pipeline of projects, we have excellent market opportunities in Scotland for the development of floating offshore wind and its supply chain and ports infrastructure. And I'm really interested to see what's happening in France around supporting ports infrastructure, and I'll speak about that in Scotland in a minute. You'll maybe be familiar with the two main leasing rounds that we've had for seabed leasing in Scotland, ScotWind and INTOG, the Innovation and Targeted Oil and Gas leasing round. And those, as well as other projects, make Scotland have an opportunity to deliver a potential pipeline of over 40 gigawatts, making a significant contribution to global offshore wind capacity overall. That is on top of 3 gigawatts currently operational in Scottish waters, helping to secure our domestic energy needs and making us a major player in global offshore wind. Our operational projects include the first floating wind farm in the world, Hywind Scotland, and one of the largest operational projects in the world, the Kincardine wind farm. We also have in Scotland world-leading innovation facilities established, including in floating offshore wind testing and demonstration. So this is an excellent start, clearly, but it is only a start. We now need to scale up that early success with a very sharp focus on delivering large-scale commercial projects. And we know that this requires providing a supportive policy environment. So to provide that, the Scottish Government, and really importantly, all of our public agencies, are taking a strategic and focused approach in key areas of activity. I'll just run through those quickly just to give you a sense of the breadth of activity undertaken by government and our agencies. So firstly, attracting investment in and developing ports and in their infrastructure, as well as wider supply chain, including manufacturing. Supporting innovation, particularly in the development of floating offshore wind. Delivering a streamlined consenting process and a robust framework for marine planning. Also delivering key evidence and world-leading research projects to support decision-making both by government and industry. ensuring that we have the right skills in the right place at the right time, and that we have a workforce that is ready to take up the opportunities presented by floating offshore wind. Developing a framework of community benefits so that we can ensure that the citizens of communities around the investment that we're making and the infrastructure that we're building really see tangible benefits directly and locally. Forging international strategic partnerships is a key aspect of what we do in my team and in my wider directorate, and hence being here today and hoping to make many of those connections with you in the room. And working closely with the UK government on reserved areas of policy, such as electricity market reform, which forms the sort of bedrock for all of the investment that developers make in floating offshore wind in Scotland. Working closely with the UK government on the contracts for difference regime and how that is being reformed. Also working closely with the UK government on electricity grid and on strategic compensation. So I'm just going to focus specifically on investment. A lot of the activity that we've been engaged with in the last 18 months or so has been focused on supply chain and ports infrastructure investment. As part of our Scottish Government and wider public sector approach to delivering investment, we've reviewed data around Scotland's potential for offshore wind, carefully analysing it, working with partners across industry and with our public bodies to identify gaps and opportunities to maximise the economic benefit from the development of offshore wind infrastructure, supply chain skills and training. And as a result of that analytical work, we published our offshore wind focus paper at the tail end of last year alongside our Green Industrial Strategy, which sets out how we are prioritising our effort in the space of investing public funds to support offshore wind supply chain and ports. That work demonstrates how we're prioritising both the components we need for our supply chain and the ports and harbours clusters that will be key to successful build-out of offshore wind and in particular floating wind projects. To build on those current capabilities that we've identified, we announced we would invest up to £500 million over 5 years to strengthen Scotland's offshore wind infrastructure and supply chain, with the aim of unlocking an additional £1.5 billion in private investment. Really critically, we see that there is a huge opportunity for public sector investment to really unlock and catalyse additional private sector investment. Ministers for this financial year 25-26 have decided to triple the amount of capital investment available. This is year 2 of our 5-year commitment, and that level for 25-6 is set at £150 million. As I say, that investment is really targeted at catalysing further private sector investment and supporting the de-risking of developer and industry investment in ports and supply chain. And we have some good examples of these already, and I'm just going to touch on 2 in a bit of detail and then give you a list of a few other things that we've been investing in. So the first, be familiar to many of you, Sumitomo cable manufacturers. Sumitomo's subsea cables were one of the first areas, subsea cables were one of the first areas identified in our analysis of priority areas for investment. At the port of Nigg in the north of Scotland, we've invested £24.5 million of public sector grant in the Japanese company Sumitomo, which unlocked a further £350 million investment into a subsea cable factory in Scotland currently under construction and well underway, in fact. This will make Scotland a manufacturing hub for key components that are subject to an increasing global shortage, something that will be acutely familiar to many of you in the room. With over 1,000 piles sunk and over 50 footing foundations already cast for the main factory and the warehouse steel frame under construction, the project is well on track. The project is also an excellent example of what the public sector's strategic investment can do and what we can deliver together with the private sector, creating hundreds of jobs locally, boosting the local economy and contributing to Scotland's long-term economic growth. The second example I'll just touch on in a bit more detail is Ardersier. Ardersier Port redevelopment will create the largest dedicated offshore wind facility in Scotland to support the industrial scale deployment of fixed and floating projects. It's one of the largest industrial regeneration projects in the Highlands and Islands in decades, and is a great example of Scottish Government and UK Government collaboration. In that project, £100 million of commercial public sector investment, so that was £50 million from the Scottish National Investment Bank, and £50 million credit facility from the UK National Wealth Fund, has supported private sector investment of £300 million into the redevelopment of the facility. Just a couple of other examples, as I said. I'll list these quickly because we're short of time, but just to give you a sense of the overall picture and the strategic approach that we're taking. We have also invested through our National Investment Bank 20 million in subsea cable manufacturer XLCC, a further £6.7 million of investment in subsea micropiles, also from the Scottish National Investment Bank, alongside 2.5 million of co-investment from Marubeni, £5 million of investment for improving Scapa Deepwater Quay in Orkney, and 3.2 million for land development at the Port of Montrose, followed by up to £10 million approved by our public sector agency, Highlands and Isles Enterprise, for a £3.1 million upgrade of Nig's Inner East Quay. All of these being really critical investments that will support the deployment of floating offshore wind at pace. And they demonstrate how the public and private sectors in Scotland are working together at pace to deliver high-quality port infrastructure and supply chain projects that create good green jobs and drive growth in our industry. So just in closing, I hope that I've been able to provide you with a bit of an overview of the work that we have underway in Scotland to support development of the floating wind market, and in particular its supply chain and the critical ports infrastructure that will enable the deployment of floating and wider offshore wind, and the Scottish Government's absolute commitment to the sector. To truly succeed, it will take us all working together, which is why events such as this are so important, and learning together to maximise the long-term economic benefits for both of our countries and indeed for the wider European market. I look forward to discussing with colleagues on the panel today throughout the course of the conference the opportunities to work together in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Raggi. Now we go to Estonia. Please welcome the Director General of the authority responsible for offshore wind in the Estonian government, Kristi Talving. Kristi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And special thanks to the hosts for inviting us here. It's first time for Estonian government to be a member of this amazing crowd here. So thank you. But coming to the topic, as I said, it's the first time here. I would introduce you. So, yes, I would introduce you first, our authority first, which I'm leading. It's the Technical Regulatory Authority, and among other things, we are really multifunctional authority and taking care of very, very different fields, being a regulator of several fields. But the most important thing is giving out the building permits and construction safety and energy efficiency issues for us. And regarding the offshore wind, our authority is taking care of the offshore tenders. At the moment, we are conducting through the site tenders and CFD auction to be for offshore in 2027. And of course, we are taking care of also all the permitting processes and later stage, the construction safety issues also. But coming to the topic, why to invest in Estonia? Why to come to our market? I think one of the most important things is our government policy and government commitment to renewables. And I would especially like to turn your attention to the renewable electricity target, which is very ambitious in our mind. It's 100% of final consumption should come from renewable electricity by year 2030. As you can see, last year we were only in level of 29%. So the ambition is definitely there, and I can assure you that the renewables are the topic of our government like every month. Where we are in Estonia at the moment, the total consumption is 8.3 terawatt hours. And out of that, 3 terawatts we import, mainly from Scandinavia. And 2.2 terawatts we produce from coal still. 1.2 terawatts is onshore wind, and 1 terawatt is solar energy, and 0.6 is biomass. So there's definitely electricity deficit in Estonia, and taking all Baltic markets. In Estonia, deficit is 35%, but Baltic markets, it's even bigger. So that's why it's a huge topic for us, and there's huge government support. But zooming in a little bit, we are developing offshore wind only on west coast of Estonia, not on north coast, because the energy security and resilience and security of critical infrastructure is really important to us. And the west side of the Estonia, it's our inner sea. So the safety issues are not a concern there. What we have done by far, we have maritime spatial planning, and there's nearly 1,700 square kilometers approved already, areas given out to developers to start developing. And there will be 3 more auctions coming this and next year for the sites. What's important, when all the sites are developed out, we can produce 3 times more renewable electricity than we can consume. So the grid developments and also export possibilities are really important for us. And that's why in parallel to offshore parks, we're also turning our attention to grid, to storage projects, to hydrogen projects, and to support the developers on every way. As I said, CFD mechanism and auction is coming out in 2027 for offshore, 2026 for onshore productions. Just zooming in a little bit more, you can see the sites. The yellow areas are the areas where the auctions still are to come, but the rest of the areas are already auctioned out. We have 3 Estonian major players, but also 5 countries invested in Estonia. So there's 2 projects for French companies. There's 1 project for Norwegian, 2 projects for Lithuanian, and 1 project for Japan company, and also 1 project for Dutch company. So there's definitely a very international crowd in our waters. And there's 1 project called Elwind, which you can see also red. This is Estonian and Latvian state-owned project where government itself makes all the assessments and building permits, and it will be auctioned out probably in future years now. Most of the projects are bottom fixed, but really the red one, most far from the island, it's also a floating project in our case. So as I said, when all the projects are built out, there's 3 times more electricity than we can consume ourselves. The grid connections are extremely important for us. So in parallel to offshore parks, we are developing at the moment additional interconnections, 1 to Finland and 1 to Latvia. And on political level, there's a debate and negotiations for the 3rd one, which is in between Estonia and Germany. And I think it's worth mentioning also that all the Baltic countries desynchronized from Russia electricity system this year, February, and we are fully connected with continental Europe system now. So, but of course, to conclude, there's always challenges. Always government elections create a little bit fuss. There's additional need to be grid to be developed, and of course Estonia is not a country with major industry players. There's only 1.3 million people of us. So, but and as probably in every country, you can say that the government processes can be faster. But as we are extremely agile country, we turn our challenges to strengths. So what we have done to support the offshore wind players in our market, basically every service in Estonian market is digitalized, so it's extremely easy to create a company or maintain a company in Estonia. When you're in our market, then you don't have to see any public officials at all. Everything can be done in computers. And we are used to not looking at the Estonian market as one market, but the whole Baltic region is one big market for the companies. So the cooperation in between our countries is really, really close. And the possibility to produce electricity and sell it to Baltic countries and to Poland. So the market is actually bigger than Estonia, and hopefully soon also to Germany. There's more space to build at scale, so it definitely reduces cost of energy generating. And we have really deep waters, which actually allows very large turbines to be used. And of course, I need to mention the access to the best wind resources. So you can build really far out of the sea, which winds are strongest. And also it reduces the visual impact. So the not in my backyard effect on offshore wind is, of course, less than onshore wind in case of Estonia. And as I said, there's 3 major players, Estonian players in the market, and 5 international countries investing in already. So the investment assurance should be there. And there really a government support in developing grid, CFD auctions, site auctions, and of course the ambitious climate goals are set. And regarding the permitting, we also had recently a change of law, which basically means that you can apply the environmental impact assessment permit and building permit together. So it reduces a lot of time in bureaucracy also. So, but all in all, it's really shortly all from my side, and I'll be here for the rest of the day, so if you have any questions, you're all welcome.
Thank you very much, Christy. Now we go to Wales. Please welcome the Deputy Director for Energy in the Welsh Government, Ed Sheriff. Ed, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and it's a real pleasure to be here in Brest to talk about renewable energy, and particularly pleased with the partnership working that we already have in place, developed through the Memorandum of Understanding with the Regional Council for Brittany, which only last year we celebrated 20 years of that Memorandum of Understanding, and that was refreshed last year with a really strong focus on marine renewable energy. So it's really fitting to be here today to be talking about our approach in Wales. And what I want to do, I just want to put in context the overall picture for energy policy in Wales and how floating offshore wind in particular plays into our future strategy for decarbonising Wales, supporting net zero and supporting growth and jobs as we do that. And as the President highlighted this morning, it's really essential that we continue to show international climate leadership around net zero. And that's exactly what our ministers are committed to do. We've got a pathway for decarbonising our society in line with the Paris Agreement to be net zero by 2050. We have an interim target to reduce our emissions by 63% by 2030. So a really challenging target that we've got to do over the next 5 years. And what we do in decarbonising energy and decarbonising electricity is absolutely essential for us to meet those targets. So our energy focus in Wales is crucial to delivering our wider net zero pathway that we've got on that slide there. But we also have unique legislation in Wales, which is about the well-being of our future generations. We have legislation in place which makes us look beyond current generations and look to the future to develop a prosperous Wales with resilient communities, thriving environment. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve through our pathway to net zero. It's about decarbonising our energy system to provide economic and social benefits to Wales, and to do so, which is driving forward innovation in new technologies, creating green jobs and growth, while also supporting our natural and climate environment as well. But I really want to focus today on our renewable energy targets. So we have a vision in Wales to fully meet our electricity needs from renewables by 2035. And this chart here just shows a brief summary of what our electricity demand is likely to look like by that red line. And we currently generate around 50% of our electricity needs from renewable sources in Wales, and that's the green line. And what we want to do is to close that gap, host more renewables in Wales to meet our own needs from renewable sources. And as we see the demand for electricity increase through electrification of vehicles, homes and industry, we want to make sure that we're matching that demand at least through renewable sources. So we want that green line to be going up to that red line and matching that growth in demand moving forward through the deployment of renewables. And the next slide here just highlights the importance that the offshore wind is going to play in us achieving that target. So the first block there shows the current baseline. Wales has some excellent onshore wind and solar opportunities already deployed. We have nearly 1 gigawatt of offshore wind in North Wales, which is predominantly fixed offshore wind. And moving forward, if we look at the pipeline of projects that we know are already in the system, we have a further 2 gigawatts of fixed offshore wind, which is that blue box there, again in North Wales. And we also have the first emergence of the Celtic Sea trials, the floating offshore wind projects that are going through planning now. We have a consented project which is ready to go, the Erebus project, which has 100 megawatts of capacity planned out, and we're hoping that's going to go into the UK government contract for difference later on this summer to be the first project which is going to be deployed off the coast in Wales. And then looking forward, the blue block there demonstrates the rest of the Celtic Sea opportunity that we have leading up to 2035. And I'll talk more about that in the coming slides. But it just shows the importance that offshore wind and floating offshore wind is going to have in Wales if we're going to meet our targets. And crucially, we want to use our natural resources in Wales to support the decarbonisation of other nations. So we're not just restricted to meeting our own electricity needs, we want to export into other markets as well to support decarbonisation of other countries, being an internationally, globally responsible nation in Wales. And this map, I just wanted to highlight how the offshore wind market links in with the wider onshore developments as well. So we have over 5 gigawatts of offshore wind currently in development. The yellow dots are those that are going through the planning system. The red dots are those that are consented and ready to go. But it also complements the existing onshore activity that we have in Wales. Another 5 gigawatts of onshore wind potential currently being developed. And there's lots of transferability of both industry and skills on the onshore and the offshore market. So you've got over 10 gigawatts of potential development there over the next 5 years that we can see in Wales, and that ability to build an industry and a supply chain around these complementary industries is really important for us. And I also wanted to flag how Wales contributes into the wider UK vision. So we're supporting the UK government on the UK Clean Power 2030 mission, which, as this slide demonstrates, requires a significant increase in the deployment of offshore wind, onshore wind, and as we move further beyond 2030, the increasing role that floating offshore wind is going to play if the UK is going to retain its energy security and achieve its decarbonisation targets. And Wales is absolutely fundamental into the UK government achieving that vision. And we're playing a really important constructive role with the UK government to make sure that we deliver on the Clean Power mission. And this slide here just really focuses on the Celtic Sea opportunity. So this shows the various stages of opportunity in the Celtic Sea, and the little yellow dots on the map, you can see that they demonstrate the test and demonstration projects. So they're the 100 megawatt projects that we're currently developing, and like I say, the Erebus project developed by Simply Blue Group. We're hoping that is a fully consented project, hoping to go into contracts for difference later on this summer. And that will really be crucial to get those devices in the water, see the industry being developed. And we're really excited about that project later on this summer. And then the orange blocks there show the current leasing round 5 by the Crown Estate for 4.5 gigawatts of projects that are going through the leasing process right now. So 3 development areas, and we're hoping to understand who the winning bidders are for those leasing projects later on this summer. And the really exciting part of that is the commitment that the developers are doing to the supply chain and to ports in particular. And as part of the announcement just a couple of weeks ago, 7 ports were identified from the developers as being key to delivering on those 4.5 gigawatts. 3 of those were in Wales. We had Port Talbot, Swansea, and Milford Haven, and really pleased that the Port of Brest was also identified by the developers as being a crucial bit of infrastructure to deliver on this ambition. But then finally, the green shaded areas there show the further potential for floating offshore wind in the Celtic Sea. So we've been working with the Crown Estate to do the marine planning and the marine mapping to develop a further 12 gigawatts of potential of floating offshore wind in the Celtic Sea. And this is a fantastic opportunity which demonstrates how Wales and the wider UK market is going to be internationally important for floating offshore wind across Europe. But what does this mean in terms of the investment? And this is a slide of what the future investment plans of Port Talbot look like. So this is a 15-metre deep water port in South Wales, located next to the Tata Steel Works. And this is what they've got planned in terms of making that hub for floating offshore wind in South Wales and to support the wider Celtic Sea market and wider international markets. So this is significant investment we're supporting together with the UK government. And I think that link to the steelworks is crucial as well. So Tata Steel are going through a transition of their steel making facilities. And what we want to see in our ideal world is steel being produced from that steelworks, moving down into the operations of the port and then going out to sea. So I'll close there, very conscious of time, but it's been fantastic to be here today to give you a view of what we're doing in Wales, the Welsh Government commitment to floating offshore wind, and also our commitment to working in partnership both with the region here in Brittany, but also internationally to deliver on our net zero and climate ambitions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ed. Now we go to Taiwan. Leon Wu, Economic Secretary, stay there at the Taipei representation in Paris. I think, Leon, you're going to show us a video of your colleague Tony in Taiwan. Would you like to just say a few words before we turn the video on?
Thank you, Dixon. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Port Mediterranean to invite Taiwan for this important event. And also, I work for Taiwan Representative Office in Paris. We are the focal point to promote trade and industrial and energy cooperation. As you might know, our government is committed to build a sustainable energy future, of course, with abundant wind resources. Offshore wind is a key pillar of this vision. So today, we are here to welcome international expertise, innovation capitals to explore the market of Taiwan. Me and my colleague, Lori Ring, Director of Taiwan Trade Office in Paris. We are here today, so please contact us if you are interested in exploring Taiwan's market. So now I would like to invite you to watch the video prepared by my colleague who is from Ministry of Economic Affairs to present our offshore wind policy. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Weiji Huang, and it is my pleasure on behalf of Energy Administration of Taiwan to introduce the Taiwan's offshore wind policy on FOWT2025. And this is my outline. And I will introduce the Taiwan's energy situation and the promotion of offshore wind farm in Taiwan. First of all, I would like to introduce the energy situation in Taiwan. And you can see the left pie chart shows that the energy mix in Taiwan. The import energy accounts for 96.2%, and the indigenous energy only provide 3.8%. So that's why we should develop renewable energy. And before the 2025, we are focused on the mature renewable energy, such as the photovoltaic and the wind power. In response to impacts of climate change, we have also announced our target of reaching net zero emission by 2050. So we published our Taiwan's pathway to net zero emission in 2050 in 2022. So you can see the picture shows that we would like to increase the share of renewable energy source up to the 60 to 70%. And the next, I would like to talk about the promotion of offshore wind farm in Taiwan. And this slide shows that the wind potential of offshore wind in Taiwan. According to the research result by ITRI, which is the Research Institute of Taiwan, if we divide into 3 regions of water depths, the shallow water, which is the depth is about 5 to 20 meters, the feasible potential capacity is about 1.2 gigawatt. And the second area, the deep water, the depth is about 20 to 50 meters. The potential capacity is about 10 gigawatt. And the deeper water, which is depth is about over the 50 meter, which is the potential capacity is over the 10 gigawatt. So I think according to the FOWT offshore, shows that there are abundant offshore wind energy source in Taiwan. So the Taiwan government set very ambitious target for offshore wind. We expect to reach 5.6 gigawatt by 2026 and 18.4 gigawatt by 2035. And finally, we would like to reach the 40 to 55 gigawatt by 2050. And we plan the promotion strategy of our offshore wind with the 3 phases. The phase 1 is called the demonstrations phase. The purpose of this phase is to verify the regulation and the technology and the infrastructure of offshore wind in Taiwan. And we select 2 demo projects in this phase. And phase 2, which is called zones of potential. And we would like to enlarge our total capacity to create the economic scale of offshore wind. So we elect about 5.5 gigawatt in this phase. And phase 3, which called is zonal development. And in this stage, we will release the total capacity is about 15 gigawatt in between the 2026 to 2035. And in this stage, we would like to provide the sustainable some green power and market to our domestic enterprise. And until now, I think we have the pretty well achievement of offshore wind. According to the GWIC report, Taiwan's total offshore wind power installation capacity ranked 7th globally in 2023. And we believe this rank will be up in 2024. because there are already 374 wind turbines have completed in Taiwan right now. The total capacity is about 3 gigawatts. So last year, we completed about 1.7 gigawatt in a single year. So according to the recent report from the Bloomberg NEF, Taiwan ranked first globally in new installation in 2024, except mainland China. And this slide shows that there are 7 wind farms which are already operate. And you can see there are a lot of the international developers join the Taiwan offshore wind market. And we expect that there are still 4 wind farms. The total capacity is about 2 gigawatts, which will be commissioned in this year and the next year. In terms of the FOWT3, this slide shows the scheme of the FOWT3 zonal development. And as I mentioned before, we will release the total capacity is about 15 gigawatt between the 2026 to 2035. And we divide 2 periods of this phase. The stage 1 period is which the commission year is in the 2026 to 2031. And in this period, we advance to divide into the 3 rounds. And each round is within the 3 gigawatt and 2 years. And the round 1, which commission year is in the 2026 to 2027. And we also complete the selection in the 2022. And the round 2, which commission year is in 2028 to 2029. And we also have the complete the selection in the last year. And right now we are just planning the round 3 mechanism, which the commission year will be in 2030 to 2031. And in the next period, which is the commission year is in 2032 to 2035, the total capacity is about the 6 gigawatt. And then in this period of the mechanism, we will base on our result of the stage 1 to plan our mechanism more suitable in our Taiwan offshore wind market. And this slide shows the allocation result of our round 3.1 and round 3.2. And there are about 10 wind farms are awarded, and the total capacity is about the 5 gigawatt. And this wind farm, we expect there will be commissioned between the 2026 to 2030.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. We have 5 minutes for questions. You've all touched on the crucial question of the supply chain. I mean, your minister talked about the Siemens Gamesa factory in Le Havre, which is now being expanded to meet the growing demand. Raggi, you talked about the Sumitomo cable factory in Neg. Turbines and cables are crucial, but with floating wind, of course, there's then the question of where we're going to manufacture the floating structures. And what type of floating structures will they be? Steel, concrete, what shape, what design, technology, and so on. What is your thinking, any of you, about where the floating structures could and should be manufactured and what type of structures they should be? Clearly it's going to be in port, harbour environments, but what's your detailed thinking? Ed?
So I think what we're looking for in Wales, we identified on that map that picture of Port Talbot being a huge integration port and a steelworks right next to it. So my vision would be that you've got steel produced from that Tata facility, being produced there and then turned into the structures that we need, the steel structures that we need, and then operated from that port and sent out. So that is definitely my vision, what I would like to see in Wales. And we're working with the steel industry, both Tata and Celsa Steel and inward investors to try and make that happen. Because if you've got that steel facility there, you've got the port there, you've got the market there, you know, that would be a beautiful thing to see, wouldn't it? That steel running out of those facilities onto the port and out at sea. So that's certainly the vision that I would have for Wales.
And Ed, that would be green steel,
Green
would
steel,
it not
indeed,
be? Because
absolutely.
Tata Steel has closed the blast furnaces. They're building electric arc furnaces.
That's right, yeah. So that's what their transition is at the moment, moving to that green steel, in a similar situation at Celsa and Cardiff again, electric arc powered by renewable electricity. So that feels very net zero compliant, doesn't it, in terms of that circular way that could work. So that, I think that's a really exciting opportunity, and we're looking to exploit that with our steel manufacturers and our ports in Wales.
Excellent. Raggy, you've got ports in Scotland as well, yes?
Yes, we have. Is this on already? Do I need to do anything?
You're fine, I think. It's working. Yeah.
Yes, we do have ports in Scotland, and as I said, we are investing in a range of ports to provide different services and support to offshore wind developments. I think in terms of structures and how they should be manufactured, where they should be manufactured, we are obviously keen to see as many economic opportunities grasped in Scotland's communities and around Scotland's ports as possible. I think different markets will have different needs in terms of whether it's concrete or steel, and what works for one project may not work for another, depending on the way that they're incentivised and the subsidies that they are hoping to attract. So I think it will be horses for courses, but yes, absolutely keen to see as much domestic content as possible and the use of Scotland's abundant port resources to do that manufacturing.
Okay, great. Amin.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe two things. I think the where and what are a different question. That, for the first question, where are we going to build these floating structures? That is actually why we launched this call for projects in France, because we have different ports and we don't want them to do all the same things. We cannot have different ports doing the same investments and to have the same facilities. So we needed to coordinate that, and that's why we launched this call for projects, and we hope that we'll have a good result so we can actually decide, or at least know who is going to do what and in which timeline. So hopefully 2025 will give us the answer. And for the what, I just wanted to say that we will be, of course, very interested in the different kind of techniques for these floating structures, and in particular, it was mentioned yesterday regarding to the fishermen, because we know that we have a huge challenge for enabling fishermen to be able to do all types of fisheries in floating farms. So, well, it's a little different subject, but we will also be very keen on seeing which developments can be done so that we have the less impact on fishermen with floating structures.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Christy.
Yes, of course, we also prefer to have our own country, the supply chain, but we need to realize the real life. We are a very small country, and because of that, we are looking at the whole Baltic market as one market, and we see that the outcome for the developers also is much better when the supply chain is looked over the whole Baltic market than 3 countries separately. We still have 2 big ports in Estonia, but there's also a big port in Latvia and in Lithuania. So the result in our case is definitely to see the Baltic market as one market, not 3 countries separately.
And you're looking there, when you say Baltic market, at the 3 Baltic states or the 8 countries around the Baltic Sea?
We are looking at it as 3 Baltic states.
Yes, okay, Fine. Leon, please, yes.
Yes, of course, with a sound investment environment and our supply chain, heavy industry, steel industry, with experience in offshore wind, I think Taiwan could be an ideal place to support the Asian market. And we can also contribute for AI and our ICT industry in this field, because we can use a smart factory concept to reduce the cost of, for example, consumption of energy to produce this kind of product. So Taiwan will be your partner in Asian market.
Thank you, Leon. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the first panel. Louise, we will now yield back to you. But before we do, please thank our excellent panelists. Very good, well done.
Thank you, Giles, for the moderation. Thank you to the panelists who definitely showed their commitment, but also tangible results from previous actions or even current ones ongoing, showing government commitment to the industry.